Allah, meaning Allah has a shade, but from the shade of His throne, the shade of the throne of Allah. The greatest creation of Allah, His throne. The highest creation of Allah. The throne that even the angels are not above. All creation is below it. Prophet Muhammad described it in paradise as being the end of creation. Allah above His throne. One of the proofs that Allah is above His creation, and not that some would say He is everywhere. The common belief, I know when I first came into Islam, I was given a little book printed in India and Pakistan called Ta'lim al-Islam by Maulana Siddiqui. First question was, it was in a catechism format. Catechism meaning su'al wa jawab, question and answer. First question was, who is your God? Allah. It's something you're supposed to memorize. So. Second one was, where is Allah? Allah is everywhere. So that was my first introduction. Allah is everywhere. But that belief is the belief of pagans. It is a pagan belief that Allah is everywhere. Now it entered amongst Muslims from the time of the Mu'tazilites. Imam Ahmad stemmed the tide. The tide of those who wanted to insist that everybody must believe that Allah is everywhere. And to say that Allah is above His throne and is not everywhere in His creation, in every part of His creation, that this was paganism. Imam Ahmad stood his ground and stemmed the tide. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about this today. There would be no question, no issue. We just all believe Allah is everywhere and finish end of story. But Imam Ahmad stood his ground. Why? What is happening here? Why would this be such an issue? Some people would ask, having grown up with the same belief, Allah is everywhere. That makes sense. It's logical, it's reasonable. He knows everything. وَهُوَ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. If He's closer to you than your jugular vein, means your jugular vein is where? Right inside your neck. So if He's closer than that, He's got to be inside of you. That's what Harun Yahya was saying. That's what he argued. You can find him on YouTube saying exactly that. Harun Yahya. who made fun of the stupid people who think that Allah is above the heavens. In his early writings, about Darwinism, which were useful, opened people's minds who had been overwhelmed by the Western presentation of evolution, that they couldn't but believe that we evolved from monkeys. He brought logical arguments, not his own. They were actually the creationist arguments done by groups in America, groups of fundamentalist Christians, who in their ranks they had scientists believing that the Bible is the Word of God. From Genesis to Revelation, the whole of the Bible, everything in it is the Word of God. In spite of all the evidence that biblical scholars have gathered, non-Muslims, to show that the Bible is filled with mistakes, obviously written by a number of different people. You have among Christians a group who insists that the Bible is the Word of God. Literally. The way we are supposed to believe that the Quran is the Word of God. Kalamullah. So much so that if anybody says, I don't believe that this word in the Quran, mishkat, it's a foreign word, it's not of Arabic origin. I don't believe it is all the Word of God. There are a few words here and there which are from other languages, Semitic languages, which Arabic functions amongst. So, I don't believe these few words here are from the words of God. That's enough to take that person out of Islam. End of story. You are not a Muslim. So those people, amongst them were scientists, biologists, biochemists, etc., who knew the holes and the flaws in Darwinism. So they put together literature and material to show that Darwinism was not a fact. It was a theory. There are facts. There are bones, not made up. Because even some Muslims say, well, hey, even the dinosaurs is all, it's all fake. It's not truth. It's not lies. No. Dinosaurs were real. Those bones, those fossilized remnants are real. But the question is, when you lay them all out, how do you interpret what went on? You see, man is feeling that he's understood everything, he can explain everything. There's an explanation for everything. He reached the point where he will show you the picture of that dinosaur right down to the color of its skin and the color of its eyes. Can you figure that out from a bone? Even today, with all of forensic science, if somebody gave you a dead man's remains, his skull, his arm bones, spine, feet, and said, what was the color of this man's skin? And what were the color of his eyes? Today, you think that they can actually tell us what color his skin was? They can guess. Okay, he looks to be of these kind of features, and the people who have bone structures like this, they come from this part of the world, and since those who come from this part of the world look this way in color, then he probably was that color. That's what they say. And since those people who are that color usually have this color eyes, his eyes were probably this color. That's all. But does it mean that everybody who has that bone structure is that color? No. Because even in those same places where people generally have one color, you find other people with other colors. Allah leaves signs amongst us. So it's not known. It's not certain knowledge. So the Western American scientists who were fundamentalists poked big holes in the theory of Darwinism. This is way back in the 70s, they wrote. Of course, other scientists, when they read their arguments, they had to admit it's true. But what these people were offering as an alternative was problematic. Because they said, okay, since Darwinism is false, then the Bible is all true. But no, just because Darwinism is false doesn't mean the Bible has to be true. It's so true, as they said, we can tell you how old the earth is based on when Adam was born and his descendants. We can go through the Bible and add them all up, and we can figure out how old the earth is. 4,500 years. Of course, any scientist hears this, he has to laugh. It's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Way back in the 18th century, 19th century, Charles Lyell, a geologist, had